Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I'm proud of our team. We played clean baseball for the most part all weekend long. We weren't that terrific offensively, but at the same point in time, you got to tip your cap to Missouri because they got a good pitching staff. And but we did enough to win, and now we got a big week ahead of us.
You have the opportunity to look back over all the athletes that have played in the state of South Carolina, and now to be voted as one of them that is deemed to be in the Hall of Fame. That's a tremendous honor.
Brian Dawkins going into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame tonight, and it won't be the last Hall of Fame for the former Clemson star safety. No doubt in a few years he'll get the call from Canton and have his bust enshrined in the NFL Hall of Fame. Good evening and welcome to Sports Talk as we come to you tonight from the annual induction ceremonies for the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame taking place at the Columbia Convention Center in downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth here. Kevin McCrary and the professor, Tom Hayes, back at our studios not far from me in downtown Columbia. The steak man, Graham Pope, once again behind the bulletproof glass. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, a great Mother's Day. Looking forward to a busy week. You heard Chad Holbrook as well as the Gamecock baseball team swept Missouri over the weekend. Didn't do a whole lot for them as far as the polls are concerned. We'll see what the NCAA RPI says tomorrow when it comes out. But tonight, our focus primarily is going to be on the Hall of Famers, and we'll hear from Brian Dawkins, we'll hear from Zam Frederick, we'll hear from Randy Martz, we'll hear from Rodney Williams, four of the folks going into the Hall of Fame. Bill DeAndre, who is receiving the Bobby Richardson Sportsmanship Award, he'll be joining us here live in just a few minutes. But guys, I tell you what, we're all sort of getting to that point. Well, maybe not so much UK Mac, but Pro and I, we're getting to that point where the folks we used to cover on the fields and on the courts, these are the folks, Pro, now going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, Rodney Williams, for example, and Brian Dawkins. I covered them when they were freshmen at Clemson. Brian Dawkins, I used to make recruiting calls to him.
Well, those guys look like they get older every year, and I don't change. It's very fascinating how that works.
I think it's the wear and tear of their athletic career compared to yours.
No, I'm Benjamin Button. Isn't that the guy that grew old in reverse, was old first and then grew young? That's who I am. Yeah, it is fascinating. But, Dawkins just a tremendous player. The last of maybe a dying breed in the NFL because of the rules. One of those safeties that ran on the field and receivers were instantly intimidated because they knew that what they were in store for.
Yeah, Corn, I really enjoyed your interview with him that we'll play later tonight when he talked about his style of play and how some people perceived it as dirty, but how he played the game. And he is a throwback. The Ginger Hammer, Roger Goodell, wouldn't allow a lot of that stuff to go on anymore.
Absolutely. Love Brian Dawkins, Rodney Williams, Randy Martz, Zam Frederick. Buck Frederick is here as well to see his dad be inducted. We'll bring it all to you coming up. Don't go away.
Yes. On the left side? Just click something else on the left side to get rid of it. It does kind of get in the way. It's bulky. The sidearm slot. You got your readers, Corn? Yeah, he was good. I didn't realize that he's only had Nunez for a year. He came up from first somewhere in Florida. Yeah, he had like 8 years at some small school in Florida and transferred up. That's a good question. Let me go look. No, I don't think I did because I booked it out of here to go to my back into my rehearsal dinner. I'll put it up. All right, cool. We got a minute. All right, stand by. Here we go.
Okay, we're back on Sports Talk tonight over here at the Columbia Convention Center. It's the night for the induction ceremonies for the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. We'll be hearing from some of the folks going into the Hall of Fame, the 54th class of inductees. And the class includes Edwin Bailey, of course, former great football player at South Carolina State, had a long career in the NFL. Brian Dawkins from Clemson, we talked about. Zam Frederick from South Carolina. Monique Hennigan, Olympic gold medalist out of Spring Valley High School a couple of times. Hap Lathrop, South Carolina Golf Association, junior golf. Randy March, former Gamecock quarterback, but made his fame, came here to South Carolina to play quarterback, but made his fame in baseball. And Carl Short, who was a star basketball player at Newberry College, and Rodney Williams, who played quarterback at Clemson. Billy D, grab that chair right there. I want you to sit right here, if you would. I'm sorry. And Rodney Williams, of course, star quarterback at Clemson for many, many years. That's the group that is going into the Athletic Hall of Fame tonight. And Billy D's wondering why I had to move over here, because we are streaming our show live on the internet, Billy D, and I want people to be able to see your smiling face.
All right.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, Phil.
Good to have you with us, and congratulations on your award tonight. Bill DeAndre, who's retiring after a long, distinguished career at Clemson, receiving tonight the Bobby Richardson Sportsmanship Award, and it's well-deserved. Over 30 years at Clemson. Came there as a football coach way back when, after your days at Indiana State, and moved into administration after you gave up the football career on the sidelines, and served many an athletic director extremely well. Congratulations.
Thank you, Phil. It's been an exceptional career. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with some exceptional student athletes, some Hall of Fame coaches, and some great administrators. And I just think that I couldn't have asked to enter a career that could have been more rewarding and more gratifying than working with student athletes.
When you got to Clemson, did you think it would be a 30-year-plus stop?
No. I knew it was a great place, and I actually came as a graduate assistant first for a semester, and then I took the Southern Miss job, which I enjoyed Hattiesburg, and I coached the offensive line there for a year, and then Coach Ford called me to come back in '85, and I knew that it was something I couldn't turn down because of the spirit and the passion and the opportunity to be successful there and, go to bowl games and whatnot. So it was just great, and, worked with a great staff, Chuck Reedy and Larry Vanderhaden, Tommy West, Tom Harper. It was just, an incredible group of guys. We had great chemistry. Coach Ford really was a leader and kept us together and kept us focused, so we were very successful.
Did you think once you got your football coaching career going, you Southern Miss, Clemson, did you think you were going to be climbing that ladder and one day you would be a head coach?
Well, I think as an assistant coach, you prepare for being a head coach, making notes, pulling your notebooks together, things that you want to kind of make mental notes of as you're going forward. And then, of course, when Coach Ford actually separated with the university, Bobby Robinson actually offered me an opportunity that day to continue on, but I really wanted to coach. I was probably 36, 37 years old, and I was young. That's what I wanted to do. And, we interviewed at several places, and things just didn't manifest and didn't develop. And then Bobby came back to me probably in late May and said that opportunity is still there. And, of course, I don't know what he saw in me, but he put me in Vickery Hall, and it just seemed to be something that really fit my skill set and whatnot. And that was really the rewarding thing, to see kids who came to Clemson, didn't really have the goal to graduate, but to really see that independent learning kind of manifest, take hold, and then for graduate.
Talking with Bill DeAndre, honored tonight here at the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame ceremonies. Vickery Hall gave Clemson an edge in its early years over the competition. Do you not think?
I believe that.
Because Clemson was one of the first to establish that kind of academic enrichment center for its football players in particular?
Well, during that early 90s, Phil, I believe that the Division I athletic directors actually established the Champs Initiative. It was challenging athletes' minds for personal success. That was an initiative, and they wanted to embrace the 5 components: academics, athletics, personal growth and development, careers, and community service. And I think Bobby Robinson not only embraced the concept, but he wanted to apply it and got with the IPTAY board to move it forward. So I give him a lot of credit in the IPTAY board for approving the funds to move that program. And it was the first standalone facility in the country, meaning that it wasn't an academic support program that was built, next to the stadium or underneath the football stadium or adjacent to the basketball. So it was kind of a standalone facility, and I think it made a lot of other programs go to school on what we did.
As you leave Clemson, you look behind you and you see that you had a hand in the hiring of the current basketball coach and in the hiring of the current football coach. So your thoughts about those two individuals and what you see future-wise for Clemson in particular in those two sports?
Well, I think the world of Brad and Dabo, and not just as friends, but as individuals who see the big picture. I think both have a broad vision about their program. I think they are very strategic in what they're doing, and I can't see where Clemson is not going to do anything but move forward. And I think that the values that they embrace, that they convey, the principles that they coach by, I think any family could come in here and be impressed by what they're doing.
Will we see you somewhere again in athletics down the road, or is this it? Are you
I'm
hanging
actually-
up the whistle and everything here?
I'm actually thinking about getting in the sports talk show.
Is that right? Well, hey, it's not like we don't have enough. All right.
No, you will see
what
me.
theme do you want? You want a Clemson theme? You want a Gamecock theme? How about a coastal? You know, pick a school.
I hear you.
Do one, huh?
No, I certainly plan to be around you. My wife is the superintendent of schools in Anderson 4. She has one more year to work and to get her retirement. And so I plan to certainly be around and be involved in some form or fashion and support Clemson.
We congratulate you on the honor tonight, along with all the others up there on the podium tonight. Enjoy the evening. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it.
Good seeing you.
All right.
Bill DeAndre visiting with us here at our broadcast location here in the bowels of the convention center. That's where they usually put me, in the bowels. It's a good place to be, huh? I'm good. You did great, Billy D. You did great. You did great, Billy D. All right. So we thank Bill DeAndre for coming by, and we will hear from some of the honorees tonight, some of the Hall of Famers who are going in, as I mentioned before. Brian Dawkins talked. These we did earlier. Brian Dawkins, Sam Frederick, Randy Martz, and who's the other one I talked to? Brian Dawkins, Randy Martz, Sam Frederick, and Rodney Williams. Yes, talked to all of those. We'll have that coming up. We're going to update the baseball polls and other stuff here coming up in just a moment, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, I got one. Don't worry about it. No, not a bit. Correct. Just fine. Don't forget to give me those interviews as soon as you can. Yeah, I mean that. How long was your Dawkins, anyways? How many minutes you get with him? Got it. So I've already got Dawkins in here from K-Mac. Okay. Yeah, I've got him. I'm gonna finish it tonight. All right, stand by.
Thanks again to Billy D for joining us here tonight from the Convention Center. The other award winners tonight, picking up the individual awards, beyond the ones going into the Hall of Fame. Mike Veck is here, president of the Charleston River Dogs, and he is receiving the Willie Jeffries Ambassador for Sports Award. Rick Henry from WIS-TV here in Columbia gets the Herman Helms Media Excellence Award. Dennis Powell, former USC basketball player, a businessman here in Columbia, will receive the Dom Fushi Leadership in Action Award. And Dawn Staley will receive the Special Achievement Award from the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. Speaking of Coach Staley, she's picked up another honor. She's been named one of the 3 head coaches to serve as assistant coaches on the USA basketball women's world championship team, the 2014 edition. So congratulations to her. She will work with head coach Gino Ariyama on that team, and they will have training camp in September. So Dawn Staley's star continues to rise. Daniel Gossett's star continues to rise as well. The Clemson ace was named the ACC Pitcher of the Week after a 4-hit shutout in the Tigers' 8-0 win over Notre Dame on Saturday. Second time he's won that award. But a tough weekend, guys, for Clemson baseball. They lose 2 out of 3 at Notre Dame, something they did not need as far as their postseason hopes are concerned. And they're basically out of all the polls except the baseball writers still have them ranked. Let me give you the rankings. Baseball America, Virginia remains number 1, followed by Oregon State, Louisiana Lafayette, Florida State, and Washington. South Carolina stays the same. Despite going 4-0, they stay the same at number 17. The collegiate baseball ranking, Oregon State is number 1, with the Gamecocks moving up from 19 to 17, and Clemson is not ranked in that one either. The coaches' top 25, Virginia number 1. South Carolina moves up to number 8 from 11. And in the writers' poll, it's Oregon State number 1. USC moves from 12 to 9. Clemson drops from 22 to 25. But Tigers have to be concerned. 31-21 at this point, K-Mac. They've got Furman tomorrow night and then 3 with Boston College and then the ACC tournament. They really can't afford any more losses, I would think.
Yeah, they've got to finish strong. They're at Furman, still a winnable game despite the fact that it's in Greenville, and then back home for those 3 games against BC and to Greensboro. And, yeah, they played themselves certainly out of any shot at playing at home in the first round of the regionals. Now they have to hope they get into the tournament, and that would be catastrophic if they don't get into the tournament. And Jack Leggett, who has taken a lot of heat, and we've defended him, and rightly so. He hasn't forgotten how to coach, but this will only add fuel to that fire.
And, of course, this is not the Notre Dame we've seen in the last few years. It's been a tremendous team that's made it into the playoffs. This is a mediocre at best Irish crew this year.
All right, going to hit a break here at the bottom of the hour. More to come, including some of the Hall of Famers that we've talked to here in Columbia. That's coming up.
Okay. Cheapo Learfield. Okay. Sorry, I was taking a phone call there. What's up? Dawkins first? We're doing these one by one, so Dawkins is separate from everything else? Out of all the emails you're going to send me here? All the files in one email or separately? Okay, I got my email open. It hadn't arrived yet.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk here on a Monday night. Good to have you with us. Hope you had a wonderful weekend with your mom and your family and all that. We are with some of our favorite people, the Hall of Fame, South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. It's the night of the induction ceremonies. Hundreds of people have convened here at the Columbia Convention Center. Many great athletes of the past, way back, and not so distant past are here tonight to participate and watch and honor the newest group of Hall of Famers going in to the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. Again, that group, Hap Lathrop, Randy March, Edwin Bailey, Brian Dawkins, Zam Frederick Sr., and Monique Hennigan. What a terrific group. And also, Carl Short and Rodney Williams as well. So what a terrific group going into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame, the 54th class to be inducted into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. And these were all, most of these are all of from the not too distant past. Carl Short goes back many years to his days at Newberry, but Monique Hennigan was 1994 graduate from Spring Valley, went to North Carolina, and then was a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Of course, Zam Frederick played high school ball here in South Carolina at St. Matthews back in the 70s, and then at USC in the late 70s, early 80s, led the nation in scoring. Edwin Bailey played at South Carolina State in the late 70s, then went into the NFL, where he had a very long and distinguished career. Brian Dawkins was at Clemson back in the mid-90s. 16 years, guys, in the NFL playing safety, the way he played the game. That's hard to believe, but, talking to him today and looking at him, he doesn't look any worse for wear. He held up quite well.
Well, when you're aggressive, and they always say when you play the game hard, instead of worrying about whether you're going to get injured, you probably are going to avoid injury. And he was smart when he picked his hits. And he was tremendous. Wasn't asked to blitz. He blitzed early in his career, but he was just a tactician back there. Not only hit his guy, but also got other guys in the position to cover. So he was a coach out on the field probably from his fifth year on.
Hap Lathrop, known as Mr. Golf in South Carolina. Of course, he's been at it since back in the 70s when he developed the South Carolina Junior Golf Association. Randy Martz played football and baseball at South Carolina back in the 70s. Rodney Williams was Clemson's star quarterback in the mid-'80s. Carl Short played basketball at Newberry in the late 50s and into the early 60s. So there you go with the timeline on those guys. And as I mentioned, we had a chance to talk to four of the Hall of Famers, including Brian Dawkins, and kind of a contemporary of ours in that we covered his high school recruiting, right through his days at Clemson, then off to the NFL. And I asked him this afternoon how it felt to get the call and this honor to go into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame.
It is a tremendous honor. None of the things that I have received and worked hard to receive and have been blessed with the abilities to achieve, I take for granted. And this is one of them that I will not as well. You know, every Pro Bowl that I made, I went to because it was an honor to do it. And when you have the opportunity to look back over all the athletes that have played in the state of South Carolina, and now to be voted as one of them that is deemed to be in the Hall of Fame, that's a tremendous honor for a young man that came the smallest safety that coming out of Jacksonville, Florida.
You developed quite a persona and a charismatic attitude on the field, especially in the NFL. Where did that come from? How did that develop first in Philly, and then you took it to Denver with you as well?
That developed in high school. That was me in high school. I was just always asked to dial it down. My coach, Stevens, always called that monkey shining. You know, I don't want you out there doing all that monkey shining, you know. But I was just full of energy. I loved the game. I was crazy in the fact that I love contact. And that's crazy for a guy that was not the biggest of guys. But I always knew that. I always knew coming up, always one of the smaller guys. And I always felt I had to do bigger things than people that were bigger than me to have them stop calling me little man. Mm-hmm. So that formed that energy to go out and play. And then on top of that, now I get a chance to do something full speed. I get a chance to hit people and not get in trouble within the rules. But I get a chance to play a game of football that millions of people love to do. And all that energy, once again, it came from growing up, the way that I grew up, the neighborhood that I grew up. But now when I got to Clemson, I was able to show a little bit more of my personality. Coaches let me go a little bit, and obviously in the NFL now I can show my complete personality.
And for as physical as you were never considered a dirty player.
I mean, listen, anytime, I always tell it like this, anytime that you walk the fine line, you're going to stumble on one side or the other. You know, sometimes I stumble into the dirty area because I always tried to play, as the offensive line would call it. They wouldn't call it playing dirty. Mm-hmm. They would call it playing to the echo of the whistle, which means dirty. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And so for me, I'm going to beat you to the ground. If you're a running back, if you're not down until you're down, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. People are going to call that dirty. So there's going to be certain times that you're going to be deemed as dirty, but that's just the aggressive nature of playing to that echo.
Clemson almost didn't happen for you, correct? As I remember in your recruiting, Patrick Sapp was the star recruit at Range High School, and there was this kid named Brian Dawkins that Clemson was looking at and then kind of cooled on. Almost didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. You know, to go deeper into the story, I'll kind of go a lot deeper into that tonight. But a place here, right around here, is where I was trying to go to. But I couldn't get in contact with anybody.
You mean the Gamecocks?
Mm-hmm. So Pat called Rick Stockstill that night. They were able to fly me up that next day. I talked to who I needed to talk to. I signed a letter of intent, and the rest is history, so to speak. But I was trying to actually come here first.
Who was the second choice, not South Carolina, and if not Clemson, where would you have gone?
It was going to be somewhere close to home because my girlfriend at the time, Connie, was in Jacksonville. I didn't want to go too far away from her, so it was going to be somewhere close. So if it was not going to be here, was it going to be Clemson? I don't know where it would have been, but it would have to have been somewhere close.
All right, last thing. So many years, a great player in Philadelphia, such a strong connection between you and the Philadelphia fans. How tough was it for you to leave there, yet you also built that connection in Denver?
It was tremendously tough. I equate that a lot of times when I talk about this to a mourning, because I was in mourning for a while. I mean, depressed and crying all the time. And so I was going through some emotional things at that time. But what I understand better now is that sometimes the Lord takes you out of the familiar to use you in other places. And so when he took me out of the familiar surroundings of Philadelphia and everything that I had achieved there, the communication that I had with my teammates and the way that he was able to use me there, he needed me to be used in Denver. And so I went up there, kind of kicking and screaming a little bit. But now I understand why I went up there. Of some of the guys that I came in contact with, some of the relationships that I built, And some of the young men that I've been able to help with my walk, not with my words, not with me pointing out, this is what you need to do, this is what you have to do, but just me living. My biggest testimony or my biggest sermon is the way that I live my life. And so a lot of times I was able to show these young men how to be professionals. And guess what they're doing now with that knowledge? They're passing that same knowledge on to the young guys coming into the league because they're veterans now. So I believe that was one of the main reasons. And also I found a nice piece of property to raise my family up there because we're still living in Denver now.
I know you've got a speech written for tonight. Have you got one written for Canton in a few years?
Always, the speech is always here in the heart. I always speak from my heart.
The Canton's coming up soon?
If that happens, obviously, that's a tremendous honor. And put it this way, it'll be a lot of people celebrating that day because a lot of people helped me along the way to get to that point, and the fans are included because I want them to come out and act a fool if we do that.
All right, Brian Dawkins, and yes, guys, it won't be too long before he gets the call to Canton. There's no doubt about that.
No, he'll be there soon.
Mm-hmm.
Very soon.
They're always already asking pictures for the bust.
And well-deserved. I mean, 16 years with all the Pro Bowl games and other All-Pro honors, no question about it, and we'll be right back.
Shum-da-da-dum-dum-dum. Corn. 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 Got it. Stand by, gents.
A visit from the Cubs, just what the doctor ordered for the Braves. Mike Morgan joining us for our Braves report. 3-game sweep for Atlanta, taking care of business against the hapless Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, it is just what the doctor ordered. I think everybody is going through a slump, hopes that the Cubbies pop up on the schedule mysteriously. Not to say that a couple of the games were not competitive, because they were, but still, Atlanta certainly has an advantage on both sides, on the mound and even at the plate, with a lineup that was really struggling going in. Picked it up a little bit. Jason Hayward actually hit a home run yesterday. That's always a positive sign when you can get him going. He actually came into that game with just 8 RBIs in mid-May. Gave him 10 now with a 2-run shot that turned out to be the difference. Good news today, Justin Upton back in the lineup, so it looks like they're back to being healthy right now, getting ready for a key series on the road against San Francisco. Very good team once again. They look like they have all the makings of making another potential run of the World Series.
It's interesting. If this had been football, we would say Atlanta's catching San Francisco at a good time. They just finished playing their rival. They might be down. No kind of psychological ploy is it in baseball because of the length of the season, or is there something to that? They're coming off playing a weekend series with Los Angeles.
Well, there could be a little bit of that. Baseball is certainly a psychological game, and even though it's not the brutal grind game by game that say a football game is, because you don't have 6 days off between games,
One of the things I'm going to say tonight is a quarterback coach when I was in high school taught me and convinced me really that quarterback is not about completions all the time or touchdowns or yardage. I mean, it's about being able to connect with your players, execute the game plan, and win a game. I mean, that's ultimately what everybody cares about. If you got a bunch of stats and you never win, they're not going to think very highly of you. So.
Perfect offense for you, though, and the ability to run the option. And I can remember many times how long you would hold the football and you would sucker in the defensive end, take the hit, and pitch it to one of your tailbacks. And let's face it, Clemson was a tailback-oriented team back then, and that's what made it go.
Yeah, again, know your role. Know your role. I wasn't the fastest guy that I used to always say, and still do. Probably the worst athlete on the field at any time. But I understood what my job was, and I understand the main job was to try to get it to those a bunch of them all-pro running backs, and end up playing in the league. So I would do everything it took to get the ball to them. That was the game plan, and sometimes it meant taking hits, sometimes it meant holding the ball too late, and doing some weird things like that. But that was my job, to get us in the best situation where we could get them those all-pro running backs the ball.
What was it like for you playing under Danny Ford and the way he handled you as a quarterback?
He's not a very good quarterback handler. Coach Ford was an offensive lineman from Alabama, and he didn't think he didn't like the idea that quarterbacks were pampered. And so we never got pampered at Clemson. I tell people all the time, I volunteer coach at J.O. Mann, and all the quarterbacks you see at any practice field nowadays have a different color jersey on. The only reason my jersey was different colors because it had mud on it from where they tackled me. I had the same exact jersey, and I got hit in practice pretty much every day. And he didn't think that the quarterback position was any different than any other position. We all had a job to do, and he treated it the same.
But it was that physical mindset that won you guys championships.
Yeah, I think so. Looking back, I think that as hard as we worked, offensive, defensive, we ones going against ones, and you don't ever see that. I mean, we got out there and really went at it, even late into the season. I can remember telling my coach one time, I'm like, why am I still getting hit? And they're like, to get used to it. And I'm like, I'm a senior. I've started 40-some games. I know what it feels like to get hit, but that was Coach Ford's mentality, and we were tougher than a lot of people. Maybe not. There were some times wasn't talented as other teams, but we were tougher, and that has helped me as I've gotten older. It really has. But I'm telling you, we worked hard and long. I mean, you were having to wait for us a lot of times.
Absolutely. I can remember it, and I always tell people the toughest football player, pound for pound, I ever saw was Rodney Williams, and I think you literally laid your guts out on the field every game.
I did. You weren't going to outwork me. You might be a better athlete than I was, and faster, and had a stronger arm, but I was going to make sure nobody on that team, and that was who I was concerned with, the team and the coaching staff, nobody was going to think, was he giving 100%? I wanted to get out there. That's what I was taught as a young child, and I was living a dream. So I was going to give 100%, and till the end, and I think that's what helped me be successful, because my teammates knew that. There was no question in their mind that I was going to give it all.
Guys, you try to keep your distance from the people that you cover, but I have to admit that Rodney Williams just, and I guess because we sort of started out in our roles together, he's always had a special place with me, just because I can remember this was back when they used to let you go in the locker room, K-Mac and Pro, and you could see the players getting undressed and actually see how they were feeling coming off the field. And this guy would just take a beating in that offense, but never shot at what? What are you laughing at?
The way you word things, it's just. Yeah.
What?
I mean, why do you have to talk about him getting undressed? Why can't you in the locker? I mean, you just make yourself sound creepy.
No, I don't. They get undressed. I'm sorry. I'm not afraid of that.
Maybe I'm just juvenile.
Back in a moment.
The straight gift that Corn has, boy, I tell you what. Doesn't even flinch. Love the way his pads are situated. So much sports cream lathered up. We need to juxtapose those two segments there. I mean, if we're really, really, really quick about it, one is 4:45, the other is 2.5, so we're looking at like 8 and some change. Got to get in and out of them, though. So what do you want to do here? All right. Michael Sam scares me, but Rodney Williams, mm-mm. Blake Mitchell didn't do for me what Rodney Williams did. No, sir. All right, stand by, gents.
Like I was trying to say, back in those days, you could go into the locker room, you could do interviews with the players one-on-one, and the point that I was trying to make, K-Mac, trying to be a little graphic here, is that as the guys were getting out of their uniforms, you, as a reporter, could observe and see just how beat up they were coming off the field. I remember covering George Rogers. George would sit on the stool outside by his locker, peel off his uniform, and would be, black and blue all over and hurting while we were doing interviews with him because of the 38, 40 carries he had just had and the pounding that he took. Well, Rodney Williams, as a quarterback, was the same way in terms of the punishment that he used to take at Clemson with the style of offense, the running that option offense with the I backfield, pitching the ball, taking the hit from the blitzing linebacker or the crashing defensive end. He would take the brunt of that hit, pitch the ball, Clemson would get a big play out of it. My point is he would get up off the turf, get back to the huddle, call the next play, and do it all over again time after time. He was a tough quarterback, tough football player, and I admired that. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I admired his toughness.
Well,
you could see it in his you could see it physically, and then you could hear it in his voice after a game and talking to him, just the kind of beat down he would take during a football game.
Well, that's Danny Ford football. He turned it into a heavyweight fight. And the other team said, okay, Danny, we're going to see how many punches your quarterback can take. And when they ran that option, you almost knew he was going to get hit every time. Even if he pitched the ball clean and the guy didn't have to take a shot at him, he still took a shot. But Rodney Williams' answer was great. He said, I like that answer. He said, well, you got to get used to getting hit. But I'm a senior. I played 40 games. I know what it's like to get hit. I don't need you to teach me how to get hit again. I know what it's like.
It's amazing how Ford and Spurrier in particular are just so opposite in their approach to dealing with quarterbacks, but they had different offensive mindsets, obviously. I mean, Spurrier doesn't want his quarterbacks being touched in practice, and Ford was all about them getting hit, but there were different offenses. Today, and let's face it, today is the touchy style of football, and back then it was brute, physical, knock them in the mouth sort of football, and you lined up in the I formation. I'm looking at this picture. You see Rodney Williams under center. You see I think that's Chris Lancaster lined up behind him. I think, I'm not 100% sure, and a tailback behind him. And that was Clemson's offense back then. The old I formation with a big blocking back and primarily get the ball in the hands of one of those great tailbacks that they had over those years. Let's think about the running backs that they had during that time, and you could understand why they would always get the ball there. And boy, they had good offensive linemen. That was one thing that Ford insisted on, was having big, strong offensive linemen.
Well, the key point is, as great as Clemson's defenses were back then, they would have to, if you pin them against a wall, that one of the secrets of their great defense is they had long periods of rest because that running game was grinding 5, 6, 7, 8, and sometimes 10-minute drives, and they're sitting on the sideline and they were fresh.
Absolutely right. Okay, when we come back, we're going to hear from a couple of the Gamecocks going into the hall, Zam Frederick and Randy Martz. That's coming up after the break here on Sports Talk. We'll be back in a moment.
We're fine. Who you want to do first?
Great, and you're right. This is a great group to go in with. I'm.
Yep. All right. Here we go. We got to get in fairly quick in and out of Zam and whoever the hell the other guy is.
It's Hall of Fame night here in Columbia. The South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame inducting its 54th class. Among those going in, former USC basketball star and high school legend in our state, Zam Frederick. Had a chance to talk with him this afternoon and asked him his feelings about going into the Hall.
grades. And you're right. This is a great group to go in with. I'm ecstatic, and I think it's because of the fact that I really wasn't expecting it. I'm still very much active in coaching and whatnot as right now. So I thought it would come a little bit later, but I'm awfully glad it came when it did. So I'm ecstatic about it.
I can remember the great Joe Petty when he was a sports anchor in Columbia, going over to St. Matthews and doing a feature on this young kid who could dunk the basketball every which way. And, of course, that was you. And that's when it all started. That's when the state and the rest of the country began to learn something about a kid named Zam Frederick from St. Matthews.
Yeah, I do remember those days quite well, and I'll forever be grateful to Joe Petty and actually all of the USC people, and I do want to thank my good friend Greg Blott, who was an assistant at the time and spent more time in St. Matthews than some of my own relatives. So, but Joe got it all started, and it escalated from there.
You had that fantastic senior year in which you led the country in scoring, but really 3 years before that, we didn't hear much from Zam Frederick at USC. How was it that you were able to hold it together, remain confident, and then it all came out of you in that senior year?
Hold that for a minute. You really want me to answer that? well, let me say this. My freshman year, I came in with a lot of confidence and very eager to prove myself. But Coach McGuire had his ways, and at that particular time, he didn't want to play, freshmen so much. So, I pretty much, let that go. If you recall, my sophomore year, I played pretty well. I didn't start the season in the starting lineup, but I did break the start lineup after about 10 games and played very well, for the remainder of the season. My junior year was somewhat a disappointment. There was a lot of things that went on, a lot of adversity during my junior year that saw my minutes, decrease quite a bit, but my confidence remained strong, really, really strong. I never doubted myself as a ball player. And, my senior year, coaching changed. Bill Foster came in. We had a very young team. So the coaches wanted me to go out there and just play the game the way I knew how. And that was like a breath of fresh air for me. And the rest is history.
As that season progressed and you're fighting for the national scoring championship, was it very much on your mind that you had this opportunity to put your name in the record books?
No, actually, I didn't think about it very much at all. I was really just trying to concentrate on being productive every night, and I was one of the only seniors on the team, one of maybe two seniors on the team, and the young kids were counting on me so much. So I really didn't have chance or time to think about anything except making sure that I did what I was supposed to do and keep them out of trouble.
And update us on Buck and how he's coming along. Is he still active in basketball?
Buck is still playing overseas. He just finished a year over in the Ukraine, of all places, and
needs to get out of there.
Absolutely. But he'll be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing him and my grandkids.
That's great. And, of course, you're still, as you mentioned, active, still coaching at Calhoun County. And how many championships have you won?
Right now we're standing at 8 championships, which is the most by any boys coach in the history of the state. And we're very proud of what we do at Calhoun. I told the other inductees in the Hall of Fame committee that I'm just as proud of my accomplishments as a coach as I am as a player. So far, we won 615 games and lost only 89. We won 8 state championships, and we own the state record for consecutive victories at 81. So I'm very proud of what we've been able to do here.
Phenomenal. And your entire career turned one night in Somerville when you were a sophomore, and your St. Matthews team fought off a game challenge by a bunch of boys from Latta in the state semifinals. You blew a 17-point lead. We got to within 5. But you held on for the win, and you were off from there.
You remember those things better than me, but you are absolutely right. And
that's because I had very few highlights in my career.
That was one heck of a game. And the thing I remember about that game so much is the fact that we came in with a big reputation, and Latta was singing this song that was very popular back in the day about it being all over. They were trying to give us a message before the game, but we couldn't let that happen.
No, and you did not. And you went on to win the state championship the next time.
Yes, sir. We most certainly did. We had the first of back-to-back state championships.
All right, there you go. Zam Frederick, that's true, 1975 pro. Played him in Somerville in the lower state finals. And they beat a very game, courageous 5 from Latta. 17 down, fought our way back to within 5. Zam was a sophomore. I think he scored 30-something that night. But he had 2 other players on that team who went on to play major college. One went to Appalachian and one went to Western Carolina. So he had a very talented team. And, of course, he went on to become an outstanding college player, getting that chance. What did you hear? You could just sense a little bit of bristle in his voice when I asked him about having to wait really, for the most part, 3 years to finally get his chance when he led the nation in scoring.
Oh yeah, he got the in other words, he got the green light is what he was waiting for. You know, some guys and let's face it, that brings up an interesting point now. Zam Frederick of the day would have transferred. Let's face it. That's exactly what would have happened. But then you get the message that good things happen to those who wait. And he waited his time, as he said, that his junior year was a little bit shaky because he was getting his playing time. But then, you know, a change in philosophy, a change in the coaching staff, and they gave him the green light, and he was the guy, he was the senior, he was the leader, and that's how he showed his leadership, by scoring.
He could flat out fill it up. He did not have his jump shot was different. You know, it had some kind of a, would you call it kind of a herky-jerky motion to it? The way, of course, he jumped so high. He was an excellent leaper, but he kind of pulled the ball, as I remember, he kind of pulled the ball kind of back to the side and maybe up over his head a little bit. You recall that?
Yeah, well, he had to do that because though he could jump, he was still, his stature for a guy his size was still short. And so his shot, even with a bigger man on him, if you remember, Phil, was unblockable because he pulled it behind his back. And once he put the arc on it, it was hard for guys to gauge how to block his jump shot because he reached and pulled it so far behind his head that you couldn't get to it. And, of course, if you notice, Buck Frederick, his son, had a little bit of that shot in him as well.
Yeah, I saw Buck before I came in to do the show. He's here. He's left the Ukraine. He's not going back.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, he says he hopes to go to over more toward in the European area, like England or someplace like that next year, maybe Turkey. You know, I said, what about the NBA for you? He goes, you know, he'd love a shot, but he knows it's political in a lot of ways, and I mean, he feels like he could play for an NBA team if given the opportunity. But he's pretty happy with what he's doing overseas. Man, is he a younger-looking version of his dad? I mean, he really is kind of mimics his dad in terms of the looks, with the kind of a goatee beard sort of thing, and the same body shape, body build. So, but he's doing well. That's the good news there. He's doing well, and I'm sure a lot of the Frederick family is here tonight to watch Zam go into the Hall of Fame. He's not finished yet. You know, like he said, he's still coaching. He mentioned Alshon Jeffrey in the news conference. He mentioned when Alshon Jeffries, I'll get it right, played for him, they won 122 of 123 games. And the only game they lost was because Alshon missed the game. So that's how he was just pointing out how great a basketball player Alshon was.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, if any receiver is 6'2" or taller, they need to put together a highlight film of Sidney Rice and Alshon Jeffries and tell them how they can use the basketball skills to screen out, block out, and rebound, and how those skills translate to the NFL.
All right, we're going to hit a break, and we'll hear from Randy Martz, who was one of America's great baseball players 1 year at USC, and we've got recruiting coming up as well. We'll be back.
I just think he's too stupid to ever be a true number one. Kelvin Benjamin, I love his skill set. You got the right guy throwing balls to him. I'd rather have somebody that's going to get open for Cam, run a route, and that's not Kelvin Benjamin. Well, that's what I'm saying, but Cam's not a placement guy either. He wasn't the number one at Florida State. He's never going to be. He's kind of dumb.
Well, the people of Carolina have always been good to me.
Stand by, stand by.
We've got Randy Marks coming up in just a moment. Also, we'll get to our recruiting report for tonight. A lot of good stuff there. That's coming up momentarily. You want more from your education? Well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And you can find out more. Visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Tell you what, in 1977, Randy Marks had no limits. Came to USC as a football player, moved over to baseball in 1977. He went 14-0, 1.98 ERA, 106 strikeouts, 36 walks, and 131.2 innings. He won the Lefty Gomez Plate, which then was the award for the most outstanding amateur player in the United States. And the Gamecocks went to the CWS and finished second back in 1977. Had a chance to talk with Randy this afternoon about going into the Hall.
Well, the people of Carolina have always been good to me, and it's always great to come back, and I really enjoyed my time here, and it's a great honor for this committee to vote me in, and I really appreciate that.
Who could ever forget your outstanding year on the mound at South Carolina? You won all the major National Player of the Year awards, and I don't think anybody really knew how good of a pitcher you were because you were a quarterback first at South Carolina.
Yeah, it was a funny story because I was there, 3 years, and they switched the offense to a veer option, and Jeff could do that better than me. So, and then Carlin came in and said, "You got to come out and move me to tight end." So, luckily June said, "We'll take a walk on." So I got there, and I knew I could pitch a little bit, but I thought I was a hitter. So I went out there and did pretty good. I mean, I pitched in summertime, so I didn't give up the game. I just, finally got a chance to play, and it was my passion, and it turned out really good.
Let's talk about you as a pitcher. What made you so good that particular year? Was it just the hard stuff you were throwing, or did your ball have a lot of movement on it? What made you so hard to hit?
I think it was my control. I had pretty good control, and I could throw hard. Back then, 94 was pretty hard. Now it's 98, 99, but 94 was pretty hard back then. And I had a slider, which was pretty good. So I didn't throw much of a changeup. I just challenged people and tried to get ahead.
Of course, pitching at Sarge Fry Field, a hitter-friendly park, I mean, it wasn't easy to keep your ERA down in that ballpark. How did you manage to keep the ball in the yard?
It's good I had Mookie Wilson in center field to run everything down. I mean, that was a big plus. I had a good catcher, Johnny Long. We had a freshman shortstop, Greg Johnson, was pretty good. And, you got strong defense out the middle. It's pretty good. I mean, I didn't throw a lot of fly balls, so I guess that's why, I didn't give up a lot of runs in Sarge Fry Field, because if you were a fly ball pitcher, you would not survive in Sarge Fry.
Absolutely. What do you think of the new Carolina Stadium?
Been to it a couple times. I went to the alumni game, pitched off the mound a couple times, so it's a great atmosphere. I mean, the facilities are second to none. And went to the game the other day, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is baseball.
Yeah. And you're coaching now?
Yeah, I coach in the Frontier League, and I coach for a junior college. So I've been in the Frontier League for probably 14 years now. I've been at the junior college for 24.
Can you still bring the heat?
No, not no more. I came back, and I pitched, and they had that stupid radar game out there. It's 78. And I go, wait, it's not no 94. So I can't bring it anymore.
All right, Randy Marks going into the Hall of Fame tonight as the ceremony continues just down the hall from us here at the Columbia Convention Center. To recruiting now on this Monday night. And, of course, last night USC received a commitment, their 9th for the 2015 class, from tight end Kyle Markway, 6'4", 219 from St. Louis. USC doesn't usually get a lot of players out of Missouri, but they're getting this one. And he said that he's very excited about joining the South Carolina program. Made an unofficial visit to USC last month for the spring game, and that really got the Gamecocks moving up the charts with him. And he said USC was the most comfortable that he'd felt at a school, and he feels like the opportunities at USC are endless. He looks forward to playing under Steve Spurrier, and he loved the school and the facilities. The decision came down to USC and Iowa. He also had offers from Indiana, Western Kentucky, Illinois, and Memphis. Last year, 28 catches, 254 yards, and a touchdown. He also plays defensive end, had 64 tackles, 16 for loss, and 7 sacks. Defensive lineman DJ Jones of East Mississippi Junior College back in Pelzer for a few weeks before heading back to school later this month for the start of summer classes. He's trying to visit some schools. Saturday he was at Tennessee. Today he was at USC. Arrived around 9 this morning, left around 4 this afternoon. Said he really enjoyed it, saw some new renovations. They're putting up some new buildings. Spent a lot of time with Deke Adams. They were breaking down film, looking at the Gamecock defense and the depth charts, and he said that he just likes the way South Carolina plays ball, and we'll tell you more about his day and thoughts on USC and what's coming up for him. We'll give you that in a moment.
Yeah, it looks better now. All right, looks so all the spots are in. All right, stand by.
Okay, back to recruiting and more on DJ Jones and his visit to USC. So he said that he looked at film, the USC defense, with Deke Adams, and he said that he never thought that South Carolina defensive tackles were produced, but he says he got to critique Kelsey Corral's film a lot, and he was impressed, he said, by how he was coached. He is in school with Dante Sawyer at East Mississippi, the USC signee, and he said Sawyer is pushing him hard to go to South Carolina. Jones was at Tennessee Saturday, was impressed by the Vols. He'll be at Clemson this coming Saturday. He's got 19 offers, and he feels like he's got plenty of offers now to choose from that group. Defensive back Juwan Briscoe of Waldorf, Maryland, plans to make his college decision this week based on what he's posted on Twitter. He's going to visit Clemson Saturday. Tigers have offered, along with West Virginia, Maryland, Rutgers, NC State, Old Dominion, Toledo, and Charlotte. He'll visit State on Friday before going to Clemson. He's been to Rutgers, Old Dominion, and Maryland. 38 tackles and 2 interceptions for him last season. Arden Key, the defensive end from Lithonia, Georgia, former USC commitment, over the weekend tweeted out his top 5 in order as Oregon, Miami, LSU, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. And in basketball over the weekend, 6'7" Houston transfer Daniel House Jr. visited USC officially with his family. Got a look at all the facilities, a close-up look at Frank Martin and the program. Called it a wonderful, wonderful experience. Spent a lot of time with Tyrone Johnson, who showed him around. He was his host. And he feels like, from talking to Frank Martin, he's got a good understanding about the future of Gamecock basketball with Martin, who told him they need a big scoring guard, and they feel like he's that guy. But House is still going to take other visits. UCLA is on the 13th. UNLV, May 31st. Iowa also is in his plans for a visit, but a date hasn't been set there. So right now he does not have any sort of pecking order yet until he visits some of these other schools to get to something to compare and contrast with. But he feels like he did have a good visit to South Carolina. So there you go with recruiting for tonight. Don't forget to check it out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, hashtag #STRecruiting, hashtag #STRecruiting. Okay. Boy, it's been a busy day, a great night here at the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Pro, K-Mac, any final thoughts from the two of you?
Well, your Yankees are leading the Mets 4-1. I still don't see how they do the Subway Series on the beginning of a work week. That should be a weekend series.
I would concur. I'm sure television had something to do with it. Who knows? I'm just glad we're winning. I'm glad we can beat somebody. K-Mac, your final thoughts?
You're around a lot of great athletes, Corn. I'm sure you feel a little out of place there.
Actually, I feel right at home.
Yeah.
I feel very much at home. Maybe one day, K-Mac, you'll have the honor bestowed upon you of being inducted into something besides the Army.
I look forward to that day.
All right. Have yourselves a great night. Thanks for being with us here on Sports Talk. We will see you tomorrow night, and have a great evening.